Hey there, guys. Alright, today we are back with some more of the Great War, this time week 105. Happy birthday, World War One. 2 years. Two years. But we've been watching this series for a little over a year now, right? Yeah. I think I started this in 2021. Now it's 2023. Anyway. Before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. I would love it if you joined the Discord and followed me over at Twitch. When this is uploaded, I'm probably still playing Elden Ring and hating life. So, go watch that. Go watch me get mad. Watch me rage with fury and anger and pain. Lots of pain. Got nothing else to add here at the beginning, though. It is the 2-year anniversary of the start of World War One, of Austria's invasion of Serbia. Let's dive in.
Every episode, I begin with some sort of a hook, like poison gas is first used, or Italy joins the war, or something like that. The one this week is painfully obvious. Here it is. The war is exactly 2 years old.
Not yet. The war that was supposed to be over by Christmas. Oh, how foolish they were.
I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to the Great War. Last week, Australian troops launched a diversion at Fromelles to prevent German troops from heading south to the Somme.
And failed.
It was a disaster, partly because German troops were not leaving for the Somme. At the Somme itself was a successful British night attack, but no big follow-up. While on the Eastern Front, the Russians were still steamrolling the Austrians. Here's what followed. Well, more attacks at the Somme followed. A French and British combined attack was to go off the 23rd, but the French Corps commander Maurice Belfourier said he wouldn't be ready until the 24th. So British General Sir Henry Rawlinson decided to go it alone, though in the end...
You know, one thing I'm noticing, but I don't think I've ever made a comment on so far. So many of the generals of World War One are dying in like 1925 or 1926. Like, I think, 3 Russian generals die in 26, if I'm remembering right? If I'm remembering those scenes there for the Russians. We haven't seen them in a while, but yeah. I don't think they were executed by Lenin's state. I think that was only Stalin that did that later on in the 30s.
He did get a small French component on his right flank. Preliminary bombardment began at 7 p.m. on July 22nd. The main part of the attack was to begin at 1:30 a.m., July 23rd. But the joint action with the French on the right, Congreve's 13th Corps and Fayoll's Frenchmen, decided, Lord knows why, that they would begin their attack at 3:40 a.m. Then it turned out the French still wouldn't be ready by then, but Congreve's men were still not going to attack with the main attack. Then aerial reconnaissance showed a newly dug German trench in the left center of the advance. So the 2 divisions facing that, the 19th and the 51st, would attack it already.
God, every time he shows an aerial picture of the trenches, I get very confused because it's like a fucking maze.
At 12:30.
Which I guess is the point of the trenches, I'd assume.
So now there were 3 different starting times. That soon became 4, as the 5th Division in the center also found a newly dug trench opposing it and decided, without talking to Corps or Army Command, that they would attack at 10 p.m. the previous night, 3.5 hours before the supposed starting time. So an operation that was supposed to be a concerted offensive is now a series of distinct and uncoordinated minor attacks. And you can well imagine that the first attack would alert the Germans along the whole line, so forget about any possibility of surprise. I think this was reason enough to rethink the whole thing, or wait until the French were ready to also attack, but that didn't happen. Oh, and poor weather had also prevented proper artillery spotting for days before the attack.
Oh my God.
And much of the German positions were on reverse slopes, so you'd need good spotting to take them out since you couldn't see them. What I'm trying to say is that the attacks that night were dismal failures. Colossal, needless, and dismal failures. Except maybe on the right in the sector around Guillemont. The British artillery could see the German trench defenses and could bomb the living daylights out of them, which they did. But the Germans did something new there. Their machine gunners, knowing the bombardment would inevitably come, had relocated to shell holes clear of the trenches. So now, a series of trenches became a whole combat zone, with units moving around within it as the situation demanded. So now, the British artillery couldn't just bomb a trench line, but would have to bombard a whole area of land, using a huge quantity of shells that they didn't have had they even known this new German tactic. Until after the British infantry advanced and made good progress, entering the village and reaching the far side, and that's when the shell hole machine guns opened up on them from the flanks. Next day, neither Rawlinson nor British Commander-in-Chief Sir Douglas Haig commented on the staggered starting times as a contributing factor in the failure, but Rawlinson did think about the lack of decent artillery support. So, for the next assault, he mandated that the attack was not to go through unless there had been 24 hours of clear weather to give the spotters a chance to do their job. And he brought in guns. A lot of guns. 368 of them, actually.
That's a lot of guns.
To support the attack of a single division. That division went in on July 27th after a bombardment of 125,000 shells weighing 4.5 million pounds. Nothing in the wood or village could survive that. Within 2 hours of the infantry advance, the British were in possession of Longueval and Delville Wood, as well as most of the objectives that they had failed to take for the past 2 weeks at an enormous cost in men. And the enormous cost in men was continuing on the southeastern front. Alexei Brusilov's colossal offensive was still pushing back the Austrians. On July 28th, the Russians entered Brody, having taken 40,000 more prisoners in 12 days. The entire Second Austrian Army was in full retreat. Thing is, the commanders of the attacking Russian 11th Army said that their own forces only deserved limited credit for their success. The shortcomings of the Habsburg troops was why Brody fell. By now, Austrian military leadership was under incredible criticism. Many thought Chief of Staff Konrad von Hotzendorf would even be removed.
He should have been removed in 1914 when he failed to invade Serbia. A tiny fucking country. Granted, Serbia's fairly mountainous. And it's, of course, always harder to invade a country that has home defense. But still, he outnumbered them what? 4-1? 3-1? 2-1? I don't know. By a big number. And he still failed.
From command. The Austrian High Command concluded that the troops were fine. It was indeed the leaders that were the problem. They were too far from the front and too out of touch with their troops.
Oh my God.
Even Conrad's assistant, Rudolf Kundman, admitted that the only answer was to mix German and Austrian troops within units, since German troops performed better in the field, and so did Austrian ones under German command.
Almost as if because the German commanders are competent, and the Austrian commanders are not.
And so, German Field Marshal Paul von Hindenburg and General Erich Ludendorff took over a large section of the Austrian front this week. And Austrian General Karl von Planzer-Baltin was forced to accept Generalmajor Hans von Seeckt, a German, as his chief of staff. There were now 18 German divisions south of the Pripyat, and German officers directed most of the front either directly or indirectly. German Army Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn, of course, wanted the whole Eastern Front under unified German control. But Falkenhayn was having serious issues now. The lack of success at Verdun, the Allied successes on the Somme, and Romania, seemingly ready to join the war with the Allies, had severely damaged his cred. Austro-Hungarian Foreign Minister István von Burian said that both German and Austrian emperors now approved of the plan to put Hindenburg in sole charge of the Eastern Front. And Burian was working behind the scenes to replace Conrad, much as politicians in Germany were trying to get rid of Falkenhayn. So, from this week on, Falkenhayn was virtually powerless on the Eastern Front. And if Hindenburg and Ludendorff could stop Brusilov, it was they who would be hailed as saviors. And they were doing damn well further north this week. The Battle of Baranovichi, after fighting off and on all month, finally came to an end. Russian General Alexei Evert had had 400,000 men. The Germans, under Prince Leopold, only a sixth of that. Yet, the Russians took, as I said a couple weeks ago, 80,000 casualties all told. The Germans only 16,000. 1,000. A humiliating defeat for the Russians. Yet the Russians were also successful in Anatolia, where this week they took Erzincan, the advanced base for Turkish operations on that front. And here are some notes to end the week. On the 27th, Yanbo, the port of Medina, was captured by the Arab revolt. Also that day, Captain Charles Fryatt of the ship Brussels was court-martialed and shot by German authorities in Belgium for attempting to ram a German submarine. He had been captured when the Brussels was making its twice-weekly trip from Harwich to the Hook of Holland. At his court-martial, he was accused of being a pirate for attempting to attack a vessel that was in the process of attacking him. And this week, the reconstituted Serbian army is in Salonika and once again ready to fight. And another week of the war ends with Russian disaster in the north, but success in the south and Anatolia.
Well, I'm just now realizing how long it's been since we got like a Greek update. Wow.
Coordinated attack that was anything but that, but still British success at the Somme, and the Serbian army joining the Allies at Salonika. We've certainly come a long way in 2 years.
And still got a long way to go.
From Austria-Hungary declaring war on Little Serbia, it's a long way. It's pretty impressive that after repeated invasions, after the winter death march through Albania, that the Serbian army is still intact and ready to fight. But you know what's really impressive? That exactly 2 years on from that declaration of war, the 3 largest battles in human history are being fought simultaneously. Verdun, the Somme, Brusilov. They would have a total casualty cost of 4 million men. The apocalypse had truly come.
And I'd say World War II was more apocalyptic.
2 years of World War I, of course, means that our show, this channel, is also 2 years old this week. We'd like to thank everyone who supported us from the beginning, but of course, all of our fans who've joined us along what has been a pretty incredible
I'm a few years
so
late.
Far. If you want to refresh your knowledge about the past 2 years, I recommend watching our recap playlist right here.
And that was the Great War, Week 105. Happy birthday, World War I. Got nothing really to add here at the end. Not too much happened. Just, well, a lot's happening, but nothing decisive as always. It was nice to hear that maybe frickin' be getting rid of Hutzendorf finally, which would be a marked massive improvement. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.